Well, welcome everyone. I know people are keep coming in, and that's totally fine. We'll kind of do a slow start here. My name's Brianna Abraham, and I'm going to be hosting the webinar right now. I'm going to share talking time with Sam Green, and then we have some student panelists. I will introduce all of the teachers in the program as well as our administrator and school counselor, but they'll be usually answering questions on the question and answer. So as we're talking, if you have a question, you can go ahead and type it in at the very bottom of your screen. You should see that Q&A, and you can type it in and they'll try to answer in the background as we're talking, or if the question is answered as we're going through the presentation, that will be great. And then of course, we'll have time at the end for any specific questions we might have missed during the formal presentation part of it. So welcome. Thank you for coming. This is for the Math, Science, Technology Magnet Program at Camas High School, letting you know what we're all about and helping you make the decision, the best decision for your future. So first introductions, we're going to start off with Mr. Morris is our program principal. He does the best support and make sure everything's running smoothly in the background for us. And then I teach all 4 years of your students, if they're in the program, principles of technology, AP biology, and I work with them as they get their internships for the capstone project. And then we have Mr. Bohack, who teaches math. He isn't here tonight. He had a family obligation, but most of your students will have him for math at some point in time. Mr. Green teaches our sophomore English students, and he does program support by keeping our blog up to date, helping with applications and admissions, and does a lot of the administrative side of things. And then we have Jeannie Jarvis, who teaches our freshman English class. And then we have Jennifer Roberts, teaches our freshman AP Environmental Science class and helps me with the research projects that we'll talk a little bit more about. And then our school counselor support is Mrs. Leby. She comes into the Principles of Technology class once a month with your students, helping them adjust to high school and make that transition and learn some life skills. And then we'll work with them as they're forecasting every year and college admissions and any other needs they might have as a school counselor. I'm going to pass it off to Mr. Green now. He's going to walk you through what we look for in students and what our MST students might look like.
Hello, everyone. Thanks again for coming out tonight and talking to us a little bit about the program. We hope to answer your questions. And one of the ones we frequently get is, what does the typical MST student look like? And there's a bunch of words on this screen. I want to focus you in on the ones that are bolded and highlighted for you, and just kind of talk through a little bit about the characteristics that we typically see and are also looking for in our students. First and foremost, since this is a math, science, technology focused program, it should be something that the kids are interested in. They should have an interest and probably an aptitude in STEM fields. We are also looking for people who have a strong desire to do some research. This is a project-based program that kind of focuses in on learning the research process and helping students to become critical thinkers about the work that they're doing. And also, we have a strong focus on commitment to ethical behaviors in our research and learning about the ethics of academia and making sure that we're focused on those as a part of our process as well. Another key part of our program is working on a team. We start off in our freshman year with team-based projects. We carry that on in our sophomore year, and eventually in the junior and senior year, they're getting ready for their internship work that they do solo. And so our model is based on the first 2 years of people working closely together on a team, and not just on the projects. We do a lot of teamwork in class as well. So if you're not very comfortable with that, or you think that might be a stretch for you and you're not willing to engage with that idea, then that's something that you should seriously consider when you're thinking about the program. Just in general, we're looking for people that want to refine their skills. We don't expect students to come to us perfectly shaped into the all-encompassed researcher and academic super person, but over time, we hope that they will have the perseverance and grit to refine their skills. And speaking of that, the ability to persevere in life and in high school and in our program is just one of those things that we really like to think about and put a key premium on. This is Abraham. we have a student voice scheduled for this. Who are we going to hear
Yes.
from?
So let me introduce our panelists and then I'll ask the question for them. We have a senior, Heather Wu. She also serves as our MST ASB president. And then Cheryl Lee is our junior on the call. Thor Rude is our sophomore and Rafiq Hamada is our freshman. And so for this slide, we're asking Heather first and then Thor if they would share how has the MST program helped shape these characteristics in them.
Okay, so I guess I'm starting. So these characteristics were really shaped in like the first 2 years of Magnet, I feel like, mostly because you're in that cohort a lot and we're working on these projects, whether it be like the Magnet project or the projects in like English or science and stuff. And you get to work with a bunch of different people who maybe you know for a long time or you've never met before. And so it just allows you to become adaptable and really help with communication skills and things that are important in the future.
Thank you, Heather. Thor, what about you?
Yeah. MST is a really tight-knit community. So when you're part of MST, you really gotta work together as a team. And you sort of learn that when you work together as a team, you sort of do better. And yeah, you're sort of forced to improve yourself.
Thank you.
So back to the basic question of what does a typical MST student look like? Those behaviors that we just talked about are certainly criteria that we're looking for. But in general, there is no single one look that defines our students. We have varsity athletes who play soccer, who are gymnasts, that play varsity football, fast pitch softball. We have a big contingent of our magnetos that are swimmers as well. And Maddie here has just won some accolades last year and this year in her gymnastic work that she's done while maintaining a very rigorous academic schedule and being a part of the Magnet program as well. If extracurriculars is your thing, we've got lots of students who participate in Knowledge Bowl, which by the way, I happen to be the coach of, so you should consider this activity. Here's a team of Magnetos from about 10 to 15 years ago, maybe, when they won the state championship. Oh, it's 2010, so yeah, 14 years ago. And then we have Magnetos involved in band and drama. Robotics is definitely a big draw for some of our students. And of course, academia, students like Reese here, who graduated again almost 10 years ago, but his research was published in journals. And he worked, I believe, over at OHSU, and I think he's teaching down at Stanford right now, if I'm not mistaken. But his work took him to the White House. He got to meet President Obama and various other things that he had done. But anyway, we have a strong academic thread and a partnership with various institutions. Megal over here worked at the WSU Coffin Lab, working with, I believe, zebrafish back in the day. She just got engaged, by the way. I just saw that. So congrats to Meg. And of course, we have students who are involved in ASB and kind of blending the social and the academic all together to just have some fun. So again, when we're asked that question, what does a typical MST student look like? There is no single defining look or characteristic. We have a really diverse student body, very talented with all sorts of interests. And some people feel like they have to sacrifice a part of themselves to join this community. I think it's the opposite of that, that you get to amplify all those parts of you and find people who share those interests through involvement in this community. So that is my final thought on what the typical MST student looks like.
So I'll take you through what the 4-year schedule could look like for MST students, starting freshman year, which is the one you're most concerned with, I'm sure, because that's what you're forecasting for right now. We have the bolded classes are the ones that they're going to be cohorted together with only MST students. So 32 to 34 students in a class. This is not the period order. So this is not what their day looks like from beginning to end. It follows departmental tracks. So science, English, math, you can see on the left there. But there are 3 3 classes as a freshman that they will be cohorted with MST students: Principles of Technology, which I teach, the AP Environmental Science, which Mrs. Roberts teaches, and the Honors English 9, which Mrs. Jarvis teaches. And that's usually their first 3 periods of the day. And then they would take their PE Health and whatever elective they have, if they're in a language pathway right now, or any other CTE classes that they want. The one elective has X'd out because, as you can see, that's a 6-period day. But as they move up in grades, you'll see more electives come on the screen. So as sophomores, instead of 3 classes together, they have really 2 classes during the day that they're cohorted with MST students only: AP Biology, which I teach, and then the Honors English 10, which Mr. Green teaches. And usually second and third period are those classes. But you'll see that opens up a room for a second elective in their sophomore year. The MST Research 10 is listed as 7th period on the schedule as a sophomore, and it's really where we put the grades for the research project, which again, we'll get to soon enough, for in that class, but we support them with that research in the biology and English class. So they don't have a 7-period day, but they do get credit for 7 classes that year as sophomores. And I did want to break real quick and ask Cheryl and Rafiq to answer, looking at the freshman, sophomore years where they were cohorted with their MST students. What did you appreciate about having MST only classes in those 2 years? We can do Cheryl first because she's the junior, and then Rafiq is a freshman, so he's kind of new to it this year.
Okay, so I actually really appreciated having magnet only classes in my freshman and sophomore year due to like how much support I got from like the MST staff, because you begin to get to know like the MST staff a lot more, and they're really great people. And also, I think when you're stuck with like the same people for the same classes for 2 years, you begin kind of forming like a community where you get to know a lot of people, and like you all share something in common. So like it's just nice that you know someone in high school, especially if you're like out of district or you just want to meet new people that share like similar interests as you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Rafiq, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Cheryl on a lot of those things. I also like it there. Once you get to know all those people, you find out their different strengths and weaknesses, and you can form teams to use those. You also, as she said, have like very similar interests, so you get to know them really well and become close to them. Like I've become a lot closer to my friends because I've been able to take half my schedule or more with them.
Thank you, Rafiq. That's great. So when we move into junior and senior year, you'll notice there really aren't any more cohorted MST classes. There's that MST Research 11 and 12, which again will be listed as a 7th period. And they work with me throughout their junior year, finding an internship, preparing for that internship. And then as a senior year, I help them finish their research with a paper and a poster and several presentations. And that's our capstone project. So they will see me and work with me directly all 4 years. But other than that, they get to take their science, their math, their English, their social studies with everyone else in the school, and they aren't cohorted or required to take any MST only classes after that. I wanted to say one other thing too on this slide. If you look at the classes that a typical MST student or a sample schedule would look like, every single one of these classes are still accessible to anyone not in the MST program, with the exception of the Principles of Technology class. So you'll see there's AP or there's options for non-AP classes. And if you don't get into the MST program, we still have great courses to choose from with great staff that will support you in your endeavors. And you can get the same type of education class-wise. The Principles of Technology class is unique for MST, but we also have a research and development learning pathway that Mr. Chase teaches that helps students do research work not in the MST program. So I want to say, well, I love MST. I teach in it. It's my joy to do that and my honor, that you can access this learning and these classes even if as you're not an MST student. So I wanted to ask Thor and Cheryl, you can see how there's room for electives. And while there's cohorted classes, there's also non-cohorted classes. And so Thor and Cheryl are going to answer for us. How have you individualized your high school experience? Being an MST, you still have choice. What were your choices for classwork? We can start with Cheryl if I need to.
Okay, I think to like individualize my high school experience, I scrolled through the very long course catalog and like I realized that Camas High School does offer a lot of like classes and you might be like incentivized to take classes that your friends take, but I think it's also important that like you choose things that you really like. And that's what I kind of did for my high school experience. And I guess another thing that I also did that isn't really a part of like taking classes is being a part of clubs because Camas High School does offer a lot of clubs too.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thor, what about you?
Yeah, so in middle school you really are like put into this like set schedule. You can't really take like different classes than other people. But in high school you could really like go your own way, like choose the classes that you really want to take. So I, for example, took ceramics, and at first I thought I wouldn't really like it. I only did it for the art credit, but I realized that it was actually really fun, and I'm gonna do it next year as well. So I realized that there's things that you can like, and you can really try things out in high school. So that's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Thanks for that, Thor. Okay, just highlighting a couple specifics for the program, what makes MST maybe a little bit unique since all these classes are still possible, right? I think the biggest thing is the research component to it. So as freshmen and sophomores, all of our students in the MST program will work with a small group of peers to conduct a year-long research project of their choice, supported by the teachers. We will walk them through a literature review, designing and implementing their experiment, or a design project if they're looking more at engineering focus. They'll write a full-length paper. They'll produce a poster, and they'll present their research to audiences at symposia of peers and teachers, as well as the family and community that come in May. So that's really kind of the atypical thing about MST. And I did want to, Heather, as our senior, has been through the whole thing. She's done freshman, sophomore projects. As juniors, they prepare for a research experience, 90 hours in the summer before their senior year. And that's their capstone project where they get to do apply all of their learning from the program to their own research with a mentor. And so I wanted to ask Heather, what do you think has been the most valuable thing about your research experiences?
Yeah, so like Abe said, the research project is like a big part of the magnet program, and it's not something that most high schoolers often have the opportunity to do, which I think is something really good if you want to go into the STEM programs. And so for me personally, I really liked how I was able to explore all of my STEM interests in sort of like a low risk situation. I could make all the mistakes in freshman and sophomore year and learn from it and work with different people so that when you go into that internship the summer before your senior year, yeah, you know what you're doing, and like the mentors that you work with, they don't have to like help you all the way through because you already know what you have to do. I think it's very important.
That's great, Heather. Thank you. So other things that are kind of special about MST, use of technology. Throughout the different classes, I know that we try to use current trends in technology and principles of technology. We've done drone piloting, 3D printing, which now is kind of like old technology. We do Arduino, we do some app development, looking at using or applying technology to problems that they're learning about in the environmental science classes. And I know in English, they'll do video projects and podcasts and stuff like that. So we really do use a lot of different technological means to teach our content. Student teacher cohorts, again, especially freshman, sophomore year, they'll be in those classes with only MST students and a group of teachers that teach all those students together, which is really helpful for that family feel and for the teachers to get to know your student in a broader way. We meet weekly to make sure that we're best supporting our students and to talk about their lesson plans and making sure projects and tests align well so they're not all piled on top of each other. And I in my class specifically, principles of technology, and I know other teachers do it too, they will be working with almost every single person in the class in different projects or activities. Same thing in AP Bio. I switch seats up and they're working with different people all year long. And so we really try to gel them as a group of 32 students and not just those 5 or 6 that they might have known coming into it. We also try to encourage our upperclassmen to help our underclassmen when we've had upperclassmen do research projects and the freshmen come in and want to do an aquaponics project. We'll ask the upperclassmen that did it to talk to them about it and use that what do I want to say, that longevity of learning, right? The wisdom of the elders to help encourage the younger students in their work. And that comes along with the social aspect of it. So we do social events throughout the year, several of them, and usually they're all grade levels. And so again, it's not just the freshmen that know each other or the sophomores that know each other, but all 130 of our students hopefully learn who they are and become better equipped to deal with people of all different kinds of ages and backgrounds. And so Rafiq is a freshman. I want him to start off because he's had less time to be social with us. But Rafiq's going to answer, and then Heather, what has been your favorite social event and why?
So my favorite social event so far has been the overnighter. It's when you stay up like all night until like 7 a.m. and it's super fun. You play like this fun game where you just roam around the halls in the dark, and you like some people last time hooked up their Nintendo Switch to a projector and played like video games on it, and you can basically do whatever you want, and it was a super fun experience, especially with my friends, and we just like goofed off the whole time, but it allowed me to get closer to them, and it was like I also got to stay up late, so it was a win-win.
And Heather, thank you, Rafiq. Heather, of course, is our senior, and she's our president for MST ASB. So she helps plan and vision and figure out what these kind of events are going to be like. So Heather, what's your favorite social event?
Well, Rafiq stole my original one, but I really like the MST breakfasts that we do like every few months. It's a great time to meet different people within Magnet, like the underclassmen, and you also get free food. So that's always great. And you can go in during lunch as well and have more food. So yeah.
Thank you. Yes. So a lot of different things we've done that are really fun and help the students feel like this is their place to belong at Camas High School. So it's really a school within a school or a family within the school, a lot of our students will say. So let's get into some nitty gritty about how to apply if you're still interested. So you have to be an 8th grade student, which I assume everyone is here. And there's an application, and in just a few seconds, Mr. Green's going to walk you through the website and show you where to find that. But with the application, there's some questions that you're going to answer and give us as much details as you want. There's 4 teacher recommendations that you need to ask, and you can do that on the website. You put in their email and it will request, but a math teacher, a science teacher, and an English teacher. And there's some directions for if you have the same math science teacher, or if you you just moved and maybe your current teachers don't know you very well. So make sure to look at that on the website. There's a 4th teacher recommendation that's required, and that's any adult that knows you well, like, other than a parent, right? So it can be a coach, it can be someone from your church, it can be someone else at school, an employer, if you have a job outside of school, somebody who knows you well that can answer those kinds of questions. And then there's an exam, math and English with an on-demand writing prompt. I believe the date's April 10th, but we'll get to dates on the next slide. So that's how you apply. And then we go through the process of looking at all of those things together and extend invitations to the program. So dates, so you know the timeline. March 28th is tonight. April 9th is when the application is due. And then Mr. Green's going to show you where to find that. The admissions exam is the 9th, my bad. And then teacher recommendations, I don't think are due quite yet. And Mr. Green will show you all of that because I may be remembering that wrong. And then you'll be notified by the end of April, and Mrs. Levy will adjust your schedule for forecasting. So Mr. Green, if you want to...
For just a second.
Yeah.
The exam is actually April 10th. So it really is the 10th.
It is the 10th. Okay.
So you had it right. It's wrong on the slide. So we'll have to edit that out.
Okay. So April 10th, admissions exam, 4 to 7 at CHS. And Mr. Green will show you where all of this is on the website. So
bear with me, people. It's been a while since I've Zoomed like this. And so finding the slide that I want to share with you, or the site that I want to share with you. And here it is. Okay, so we have a website that probably needs a little bit of an update, but it is a wealth of information for all sorts of stuff, including news about our students and what they've been doing. We recently did very well at the Southwest Washington Science and Engineering Fair. David, I believe, qualified to go on to ISEF down in California this year, I believe. Yes. But anyway, there's all sorts of information on here that will be interesting to you if you're thinking about like the culture of the program and you just want to learn about some of the things that have been happening. So yeah, not a whole lot of traffic on this website, but probably 2-3 posts at a time, or at a month rather. For admissions, this is the drop-down arrow that you want to be at. And for the students, you want to come here. And if you click on the admissions FAQ, the frequently asked questions, there is just an overview of the things that you need to do to get ready. Requesting the recommendation should be your first thing. If you haven't done that and you're on the meeting, please do so tonight. And I'll just remind you that you have to use not the csd117.org address for the teachers. It's the camus.wednet.edu one. And it reminds you of that on the web page where you put this into a form, and then it emails them the request, and it sends you a copy too, I believe. And there's a link the teachers can click on. It's a pretty simple recommendation. It's not a letter of recommendation. It's rather a bunch of metrics, and then there is a chance for them to elaborate a little bit. But again, it's nothing like the letters of recommendation that you get in college or in high school. Preparing your online application down here is the next step. And I think it's a really good idea to go and preview the questions. And here they are, and all the information that you're going to need. And then if I were you, what I would do is actually open up a Drive document and start the process of drafting those things in a Drive document and not trying to do those inside of the form. That way you can really take the time to craft a quality response. There's no special consideration given to early applicants. So please take your time and do the best quality application that you can. There is really no rush. And then, of course, the admissions test that we have the correct date down here, but I apparently forgot to update the 9 to a 10 when I copied that over. So anyway, all sorts of information on this page. Back here, you can see on number 2, this is where you request the teacher recommendations. And again, it is a pretty straightforward process. You drop in your email so you can get a copy of this. English teacher, math teacher, science teacher, and all sorts of things that give you clues about how to fill out this form. And then back to our page again. I think the final step that we mentioned is for you to come down to the MST Magnet application. And from here, again, it tells you the stuff that you need and the questions that you can copy and paste into a document and start working on those, and then copy and paste those back into the form. It's all here for you to understand and prepare for whenever you are ready to take that step and apply. So our website also has all sorts of information about our graduates. A lot of people find this interesting, our Magnet College grad map that shows you many of the places that our students have gone to. By far, the University of Washington seems to be the in-state winner, much to my chagrin, being a graduate of the Harvard of the West, Washington State University. But you can click over here and you can see some of the students that have gone to various places. This, I believe, is the UC California system, UC Davis, and Bree went there, and Katrina, and then you can click on some others. I'm just grabbing a couple here. Creighton University, Stephen, and then Darlena. and all sorts of others. But anyway, these will let you click on that and see some of the places across the world where our students have studied at different points in their career. We update this every spring with the new ones. We do have some links down here for other things that might be of interest to you. The internships part is kind of interesting. We're going to hear more about that a little bit later on, but this part of the thing right here allows you to come in and see some of the groups and where they've been and who they worked with and some of the sponsors of our internship program. So these are all of our seniors that are graduating in just a couple of months. And here are some of the people they worked with up here on this slide. Beyond that, there is some stuff over here that's kind of interesting if you want to dive in and do some thinking about the projects that we've done in the past. We had a student who graduated last year who built the MST Magnet Research Catalog. Hopefully it's going to load. But anyway, it's a searchable database that allows students to upload their papers and their abstracts and other things like that. I'll have to send Aiden an email about making sure that server is still working. Back to the page over here. There's all sorts of stuff about the research project and rubrics that we use for this. And then many of our staff are using their own personal web pages. With Google Classroom, it's kind of taken out the personal web page for some of us. But anyway, there's just a bunch of information here that is ready for you when you're ready to access that and dive in. So with that, I think we are ready to take some more questions and wrap things up here.
Let me have Cheryl give us a final thought I want to leave the students with. Cheryl, you were going to answer, what would you say to someone who's on the fence about applying? So they've listened to our spiel. What's your final piece of advice for them?
I think my final piece of advice is that if you're still like on the fence about applying, definitely like if you have questions, talk to staff, maybe get in contact with like people who are in Magnet. And I feel like maybe a common concern is like fear of the selective admission process, because that was definitely a concern of mine when I was going through this process. But I feel like regardless, you should still apply because it does increase your chances compared to not applying. And I think that like if you're still on fence right now, you could apply, and later if you decide that you don't want to do Magnet, you could decline your admissions, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good opportunity. I may be a bit biased, but definitely do try it out.
Thank you, Cheryl. Yeah, I'm gonna second that. If you don't apply, your chances of getting in are 0. If you apply, you definitely have a better chance of getting in. So that I would agree with that. So there's Mr. Morris. I see that hand.
If you can, I want to just speak real quick about the test date on April 10th. Typically, we have applications due, and the test isn't for a little bit after that. So we have time to give everyone plenty of fair warning on when the exam is and all the directions for it. Since we had to push this back this year, the applications are due on the 9th, the exam's on the 10th. So if you plan on taking the exam, you will get an email from me on the 9th, right after school. I think the window closes like at 3. So I'll have the email all drafted up. I just got to copy and paste emails and email addresses in there, and I'll send it out. But basically get there as close to 4 as you can. The earlier, the better. We'll get it all set up. You already heard there's a math, there's kind of an English portion, and then an on-demand thing where you write a little essay. It does take a little over 3 hours or so, and I do know it's right after school and right before dinner time. So kids, if you guys want to bring a snack, that's completely fine. Just make it something kind of small, and then a water bottle is fine as well. We just got to make sure we keep it on the floor so we don't spill all over the test or anything like that. And then again, on the 9th in that evening, I'll send emails out to everybody, parents and students that have a complete application with all these details I'm talking about today. And bring sharp pencils.
Thank you, thank you. So I was looking at the question and answer while he was talking. So there's 9 questions and answers that have already been done. Someone's asking, is there a time limit for the test? There is a time limit, and I don't proctor the test very often, so I know Leontina is writing that in there, and she said, oh, I missed it. It's down at the bottom now, right? Yeah, it's in there if you can look at them. I don't know where.
Each section is timed. The writing section and the math section, I think they're right around, oh, I can't remember off the top of my head, 50 to 70 minutes. So right around an hour, and then you get 45 minutes to write the essay.
There you go. So, and it is a paper essay. That question's been asked a couple times. You are handwriting the essay on paper. It is not on a computer. So all of the testing is paper based. Typical time commitment outside of school per week. It's more for the classes, not necessarily for the program, but there's more time commitment for the research project for sophomores outside of class than freshmen. A lot of the stuff we'll do inside of class for the freshmen, but I would say a lot of the classes they're taking are AP or honors. And in my AP class, I say about 30 minutes of homework a night for my class. If they have 6 classes, I would say expect about 2 to 3 hours of work a night. And it does depend on your class and your teacher, but that's how I would answer that one. I don't know if anyone else wants to chime in. How does the MST program compare to Running Start? Running Start is our program for juniors and seniors to take classes at Clark College and receive credit for Clark College and credit at Camas High School. So it is a completely different program. The classes in the MST program are high school classes, and none of our MST only classes can they earn college credit for, but there are a number of classes given at Camas High School through College in the Classroom program, which in the forecasting guide, you can see about that. They're either labeled with CWU, which gives them credit from Central Washington University, or UW, which gives them credit from University of Washington. So there are classes they can take at Camas High School and earn college credit, but they're not MST classes. And Running Start is through Clark College. For the last few years, how many percent of applicants are selected to join the MST program? Looks like Mr. Morris is answering that, typing it out. So I know I'm gonna screw up the numbers, so I'm gonna wait till I see that answer. Mr. Green might know. He's a numbers guy. He keeps the database.
Yeah. And I don't have the numbers, but my answer I put in there was around 50 to 60%. You know, if there's 60 or 70 applicants, we can take about 32 students in there. If it's a year where we get 100 applicants, which sometimes we do, then of course the percent goes down. So it's really dependent on how many people apply. You know, if only 32 people applied, then we would probably have 100% acceptance rate. So that might be on the MST exam.
That's a good question to put in there, huh?
I wanted to add in about the letting teachers know about the recommendation. I think many of the teachers are familiar with the program and they expect the recommendations to start coming about right now. However, I think it's a good professional courtesy to just reach out to them in person and say, hello, Mr. Green. I just want to let you know I'm applying for the Magnet program. You're going to get a recommendation request from a form that I'm going to fill out tonight. Thank you in advance if you're willing to do this. And boom, you're done. And I think that learning professional courtesies is another thing that we really try to work on in the program, and just, how to manage those sorts of communications.
True. I like to know when I'm being asked to submit a letter of recommendation. Couple questions. The entrance test is about 3 hours for the whole thing, give or take, and there'll be more details about that in the email that comes out on April 9th. And somebody had talked about typing their essays for the application. Absolutely. The application is in a Google form. You will type your essays for that. The on-demand essay writing prompt for the admissions test is the handwritten portion we're talking about. But there are a couple short answer type questions on the application, and there is one longer. I think it's 150 words max, or 300, 250 something. Mr. Green knows that. He's going to correct me in about 2 seconds. I can see him thinking.
I wish I could remember.
Okay. So there's a little bit longer on the application and question, and yes, you can type those up and then put those into the form for sure. Any prereqs for recommendation letters? You know that your teachers know you. I would hope that they could give you a good recommendation and say, yes, we think the student will be great for the MST program, but we require a math, science, and English teacher and your current year, if at all possible. Again, sometimes at some of our middle schools or other schools outside of the district, a math and science teacher might be the same teacher. So we say pick this year's for one of them and pick last year's teacher for a different one. But we do want current teachers' recommendations if at all possible, if those are 3 different people in your life.
And you can go in and look at the recommendation form under the adult recommender link if you're curious about the metrics that they're going to be using. They also ask for words to describe the students, very kind of similar thing that we do with our college recommendations at the high school level. Adjectives to describe the student, and then they have a chance to elaborate if they choose. And I would say about half the teachers elaborate and give us really good insight in a short little paragraph, about the student.
Asking about the test. My kid did not have a cell phone either. In fact, he just got it like 2 weeks ago as a freshman in high school. So someone will have a phone there. I guarantee you there will be a phone that he could use to text you or call you if he needed to, or you could, hang out. But yeah, I plan about a 3-hour thing. And then Mr. Morris also typed an answer, but I was just talking out loud for it. So. Looks like another one. Good. Yeah, Tony, if you want to email me, I could forward that question on and ask some of my current students who would be willing to answer. I'd totally be happy doing that. So feel free to email me any specific questions you have about the program that you want students. If he knows right now we've got 4 students still online, you're welcome to ask the question to the students and they can of course unmute and answer, but I don't mind taking email questions as well. Are calculators allowed for math? I want to say yes. No, I want to say no. Calculators are not allowed on the math tests. And there is a makeup, and I think that's by appointment. It kind of depends on what your schedule is when you can come in and who can proctor it. So usually Mrs. Levy is the one proctoring those late tests. So she tries to do it as close to the 10th as possible, but she'll work with you if you have a conflict that you know of already, and you can email Mr. Morris and Mrs. Levy, and they can work with you on that. Mr. Green, you're muted. Do they get an email when the recommenders?
Is this better now?
Yeah.
There we go. I can mention just quickly about the reason for the paper versus the Chromebook answer on the test. We just find that we get a more authentic response from students when they write it out on paper. And I know that many students are not as familiar with handwriting out essays, but it's one of the factors or variables that we can control through having a handwritten response. The technology just gets kind of wonky with sometimes the Wi-Fi connection in the North Commons. And then, of course, we have to worry about Google and all these other things. But we do have accommodations, exceptions allowed for people who maybe have a 504 that allows for that. But generally, we're asking students to handwrite out the essay.
And do they get an email when the recommenders submit their recommendation? Do they know?
They do. They get a copy of, they don't get, they get a copy when they request. They don't get a copy when the teacher submits.
So if you're concerned that your teacher hasn't submitted, you could always ask the teacher and see if they've done it. I write recommendations all year long for my MST students, and they will come and go, Abe, did you fill it out? And I'll go, yes, or oh crap, I'll do it right now. So yeah, you can always ask your teacher about that.
And the teachers get copies of the recommendations they write. And so that's a record keeping thing for them to be able to quickly see when you go up and politely ask them, I was just wondering if you've had a chance to fill out my recommendation yet. And they'll be able to quickly see that if they kept those receipts that they got.
Right. The essay does not require research materials. It's not anything that will require students to do any research. It's really creative thinking, more stuff that will give us a view into their personality and their ability to think on their feet. But there's no worries about researching for the essay or preparing for the essay prompt. And Mrs. Levy is answering this. The student tried it for a year and they want to do regular classes. Can they drop? I would tend to say yes. I would say you're never committed into anything. I mean, people change jobs, people change schools, people change classes, people, so.
I'm going to add to that too. That yes, it does sometimes happen, but we want students to think of this as a 4-year deal when you go into it, right? Because what we don't want to do is give away a spot to a student who might be, I don't know if I want to do this program, and then you leave us after a year, and then we can't fill that spot again because we don't start anything but 9th grade cohorts, and then they move their way through. So we ask kids to make a serious commitment when it's time to do so.
That's a good point and not something I talk about. We often get asked by parents of students older than 9th grade or 8th grade coming into the district, can my student apply for the program? And there's so much foundational learning that goes on in 9th grade year in the principles of technology and the English class to cover the research stuff. We have found that it is not helpful for students to come in as a sophomore or a junior into the program, and they're not successful. And so we very early on said it's important that we bring students in and they're with us for all 4 years as part of the program. So we only accept incoming 9th graders to the MST program. So thank you, Mr. Morris. I feel like I'm watching popcorn pop. The bag says for 2 seconds in between each kernel, then you can stop the microwave, right? So I'm kind of waiting to see if there's more time between the questions and we're winding down, or if another question's going to pop up. And look at that. How many students are grouped per research project? For freshman and sophomore years, we keep it within the science and engineering fair regulations, which are 2 to 3 is what we try to do. We have allowed 4 students to work on a research project together. They can't go to the science and engineering fair to present their research or compete with their research if they want to do that in a group of 4. So we try to make a topic that can be divided into like 2 and 2 then if they want to compete at the science and engineering fair, but it's no more than 4 and no less than 2. So as freshmen and sophomores, they can't be individuals working on their research and they can't be in a group of 5. As seniors, right, that research experience they take in the summer, that's individual, and they find a mentor either at a lab or a higher institution of learning or a office career place to work with, and they do their own research through whatever place they found to mentor with or intern.
Answer a couple questions real quick. There's a question about the math section, and this one has been asked about 4 different times today. So I figured I would just say it out loud that the math really varies, probably from a pre-algebra level, and I put in one of the answers to a couple questions that I found difficult, and I used to teach AP calculus at the school. So it's really a wide range of questions. Some of them are logic questions. You might not even think it's a math question. So it really, really does vary. Some problem solving type of things on it, kind of. So there really isn't a great way to study for that. And kind of what I recommended when someone asked that question was get a good night's sleep, bring water, bring a snack, bring some sharp pencils. And that's really how you prepare for it. You don't need to study for it. Please don't take time to study for it. Come in and use the abilities you have and do the best you can. And then the other one I wanted to answer, Miss Levy kind of put an answer in there already. We had mentioned 32 kids. It's going to be 31 to 32 probably this year. There was some new contract language for our teachers, and I need to kind of work that out still. So usually it's 32 for the most part.
It's an interesting question. What stands out to the people reading your application? Mr. Green, do you have a thought on that one?
Well, when we read through the applications as a staff, we break it down by question. And so I always do the longer essay-based question with Mrs. Jarvis. And I know that in a longer response, organizational capacity and just, of course, a grammatically sound piece that is maybe a little bit fresh and actually answers the question or the prompt that's given is really important for us. So I would very carefully plan out your response and proofread and check it out and do your best. Somebody asked if they could use AI. This was not on the webinar to write their essay. I would not recommend that. It'd probably come up with a pretty decent response, but we're trying to dissuade people from doing artificial work on this.
We want to hear what you think. And
Mrs. Abraham and any of the other staff on here, back at you, what would you be looking at on an application as you read through this? What stands out for you?
I like the answering the prompt. I think sometimes students can get off topic when writing. So answering the prompt is important. And really, if you think back to those slides, interest in STEM, willing to learn and grow, perseverance, things that show those qualities in a student that you've demonstrated them anecdotally, stories that you can, or examples that you can point to show this is how I've been in my life. And so this is why I think I'd be a good MST student. Those kinds of things I think are what I'm looking for.
Would add that we look at the students' love for learning, excitement for new knowledge, excitement to explore and do research, and certainly answer the question on the prompt.
I would also add that the biggest thing that I want to see is the student really, really wants to be part of the MST program. And it's something that's a personal goal for them, perhaps. But just, yeah, speaking from the heart, but backing it up with your own experiences and anything else that make you stand out in the program as well.
Great, thanks. Some questions about schedules. Students do not take all AP classes. In fact, I think most of us would discourage students from taking all AP classes. And there are required PE credits, there are required fine arts credits, there are required CTE credits. And within those, it's harder to find AP classes within those things. So they're gonna have classes that cannot be AP. And so, yeah, students are not required or expected to do all AP classes, whether they're in the MST program or they're not in the MST program. The only AP classes that are required for the MST program is AP Environmental Science and AP Biology. AP Chemistry, AP Physics, those are by choice. We have a number of students that take regular chemistry and physics. We have a number of students that take AP. AP Calculus, AP English, AP Social Studies stuff, that's all by choice between the student and the parents and what they feel they can do, based on their extracurricular requirements or obligations and things outside of school, as well as how quickly they do work and what their interest is. So the AP classes are very personal for people to pick. Benefits of being in the magnet program. I think the smaller cohort within a larger school is a benefit. The teachers, we work together very closely, and so we know our students really well, and we focus on doing the best we can for them as a person, and not just in our classroom as a student learning our content. And then that research, the focus on STEM and research and learning and love of learning and growth, those kinds of things. And I know you've probably heard growth mindset 2 billion times since elementary school, but that's the kind of thing that we really foster and want our students to leave Camas High School with. It's not whether they're going to remember what the equation for photosynthesis or cellular respiration is, it's whether they're going to go out there and go, oh my gosh, that's so fascinating, I want to learn more about it. And then we'll do something to do that, right? So I think that's the biggest benefit of MST. If anyone else has another idea, that's I can chime in.
We have frequent contact with our graduates, and they very often tell us how well prepared they are for college. Some say it's even easier in college than it was in high school, not because of the program necessarily, but Camas High School is, if you want it to be a relatively rigorous place, or there are rigorous pathways that you can take. So, I mean, getting experience with the research process and the writing that we do is really critical. And that also answers one of the questions about why the English and the bio and the principles of engineering.
Yeah. The elective shown as an X, Mr. Morris is typing an answer, but if you look, we have a 6-period day at Camas High School. And so, and I know you can't see it, but on the website, there is that sample schedule from the slides on the website that you can look at. And so if you look at the freshman year with their PE health and their one elective and the principles of technology class, they have 6 class periods filled. So they don't have 2 electives their freshman year. Whereas the other years, they have 2 elective spaces. And so there's an X on one of the electives because that elective is, we've kind of given them their elective as Principles of Technology as an MST class. And so you only have 1 option for elective your freshman year, whereas you'll have 2 options your sophomore through senior year. AP Environmental Science, AP Biology are the 2 AP classes that are required for all MST students to take. AP Environmental Science is freshman year, AP Biology is sophomore year. I don't know if I was missing any other questions as they come in fast, and you guys are doing great answering them on the computer, so. I am going to say we had planned to be done in 3 minutes. So 7:30, I would like to let everyone go and spend their evening with their family and get ready for tomorrow. So if there's any more dire questions you have to have answered now would be the time to ask them. Anything else that comes up, please feel free to email me directly, and I can either direct them to the person who can answer them, or I can answer them myself. So Brianna.Abraham, write my name down, and we all have that same last moniker, right? camus.wednet.edu. And so please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll help get you the answers you need. And we will be posting this, I believe, on the MST website, Sam. So
Yep.
we have recorded it, and we will post it for people who are either unable to be here tonight or who want to rewatch it.
We'll post that out tomorrow afternoon, probably before we leave for spring break.
Yeah, can someone here, I'll answer my Brianna.Abraham@camus.wednet. Make sure I spell it right. Don't want to give you a faulty email address.
You should have used alan.bohack@camus.with.
He's the one not here tonight. I like to keep my working relationships positive, Mr. Morris. Thank you for attending, and thank you for sticking it out for the hour. We really appreciate the interest. Let your friends know if they didn't get a chance to watch it, that they can be looking for that to be posted on the website. And look at the website. There's great information. I think most of what we talked about tonight is there on the website. And of course, please feel free to give my email out to anyone who needs it. So you guys have a wonderful Thursday evening. One more day till spring break. Hopefully you guys have nice plans for next week. We've got some sun in our future, so I'm excited.
Night, everybody.